The United States government has passed 3 stimulus bills, and today we are talking about the main 2 ways a freelancer or small business can get cash now via the CARES Act. This is thousands of dollars being paid directly to freelancers in the form of forgivable loans. You were probably asking, is this really real? This seems way too good to be true. And the answer is this is real, but there's also some urgency to it. And so I've invited a special guest on my YouTube channel today. His name is Brian Thompson. He's a contributor to Forbes, a certified financial planner, and tax attorney. He is going to share the steps you need to take to make sure you can get your money as efficiently as possible as a freelancer. So if you're serious about getting cash to sustain yourself right now, please watch this entire video. Please pay attention and understand that you should be taking action with this information as soon as possible. We are talking specifically about the Small Business Administration's, the SBA, Economic Injury Disaster Loans, EDIL loans, and the CARES Act's Paycheck Protection Program Loan Guarantee. These are both first come, first serve. Also know that in the description below, I have put all the links to Brian's articles on Forbes and also additional resources that he references in those articles and that will be useful for you. And now let's get into the conversation that I had with Brian earlier today.
My name is Brian. I'm a certified financial planner, tax attorney. I run my own firm, Brian Thompson Financial. The firm focuses on serving comprehensive financial planning for LGBTQ entrepreneurs who run mission-driven businesses. I'm obviously also a contributor to Forbes too, so part of my role is making sure that people understand what's going on, and that's why I'm here today, to make sure people know what's out there and can take advantage of it the best that they can.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here with us. And if you want to just start with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, what that's about, just give us a synopsis of that.
So there are 2 main loans. The first one is one that's existed for a while. It's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This has been around for all sorts of disasters, but this one specifically is new because they've never done a virus before, or something that's been a worldwide pandemic. So having it be characterized as a disaster, the virus itself, has now then opened up funding for the loans to every state and territory in America. And so it's a $10 billion fund was allotted for the CARES Act that just passed on last Friday. And so they're upgrading some of the loan features, making it more accessible to people, removing some of the requirements of having a personal guarantee. So any loans that are under $200,000 don't have a personal guarantee. You don't have to have any collateral, like they usually require real estate as collateral. That's not required anymore. And then there's also this new $10,000 emergency grant, which is basically an advance on a loan that they seem to be giving to anybody who applies, but then will be forgiven and then be counted as free as long as it's used to maintain things like payroll, mortgage, supply chain disruption, those types of things. Really good option for people who are looking for cash now. The application process opened on Monday. And so people are applying furiously, trying to get that advance and make sure that they get some money in their hands as soon as possible.
The vast majority of my audience is going to be freelancers. A lot of them are filmmakers. A lot of them are photographers. Am I understanding correctly that if you apply for the EDIL loan and you get that $10,000 advance, you can pay yourself as a freelancer? So I work for myself. I don't have any employees. I can pay myself out of that money, and then that money would be forgiven. Is that right?
Correct. So they've expanded the definition of what payroll is, and they've expanded payroll to include any payments to or income of a sole proprietor or a person who's self-employed.
If you're digging this video, click the thumbs up. Okay, and does that like literally, do I need to show that, because that's supposed to take place in like 8 weeks? Do I need to like be paying myself X amount per week from a separate account or something? Or do you just say, yeah, I paid myself 10 grand for 8 weeks?
Yeah, I think that's still the part that's up in the air. I don't know how they're going to keep track of everyone who gets these loans, what they're using it for. The 8-week thing that you're talking about is actually for the Paycheck Protection Program. That's for the other loan that are done through local lenders. So this one is just done directly through the SBA. You apply online, And theoretically, they send you the funds within 3 days. So people who applied on Monday should be getting them now. I haven't heard anything about that. So it sounds like there may be a little bit of delay in the funds and when it's going to happen. And that's supposed to be the idea, that you get the money and then you can use it for your personal expenses.
And so then if you apply for it, and let's say that you're a single solo person, right? You have $200,000 in revenue and maybe you have like $90,000 in subcontractors or something. So you've got 110 before your expenses for your business. Would you then be able to use that to pay yourself and then maybe use the other loan to pay some business expenses? Like I know that there's two loans, and I know there's like a little bit of a dance there in terms of being able to take advantage of both of them. What does that look like?
So, I mean, that's a good question. And I think it's one that comes up a lot because there are two options and people are thinking, well, do I have to choose one or the other? And the answer is you don't, as long as you're using the loan funds for different expenses. And again, all of this is sort of, and I guess maybe I should put in a disclaimer, all of this is still sort of up in the air. Because they're trying to figure out how to implement the programs right now. I just got an email from my editor at Forbes that said they've just changed the interest rate on the Paycheck Protection loans. So everyone is still trying to figure out, but the rules as they are stated now so that you can have both as long as they're not used for the same funds. And so you could have pay your operating expenses from the EDIL loan and then pay your payroll expenses from your Paycheck Protection loan.
If you like what you're hearing, subscribe below. And then for the EDIL loan, if you get that advance, let's say your revenue in that example I just gave you is higher in terms of like you paid yourself $100,000 or something, or 90, let's say 90,000. You paid yourself 90,000 during the window of time that they have you, when you do the application, they say, we need to know how much you made during this time period. Will there be an opportunity to get more money beyond that original, like that initial 10,000? And will that additional funds also be able to be forgiven?
So won't be, and I feel like this is going to be a common issue. The forgiven part is for the second loan, the Paycheck Protection Loan. They're calling this a grant. So it's an advance on the loan funds. And the reason that they're giving advance is because it's going to take a while to get through the rest of the applications. So they're giving this money to help ease the pain that people have right now while their applications are being reviewed. And so, yeah, there'll be a chance for additional information that they need in order to get the applications, the additional funding that you need. From what I understand from a call last week, it looks like it's going to be based on operating expenses for the EDIL loans. So how much you have in operating expenses and your credit score, making sure that you have a good enough credit score to be comfortable, for them to become comfortable lending to you. They said they would also be flexible with that too, though. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting dance to see how they actually balance all of those things, because there's really no mechanism right now for then following up for how you've used the money. And for a lot of people, even if you get denied for additional funds for the loan, you can still keep the grant. So a lot of people applying for this now are just hoping that they can get the 10,000 grant and that will be enough.
Right. So you could get that $10,000 grant, maybe some additional money, depending on how the application goes. That kind of leads, for the EDIL loan, that kind of leads me to one of the other questions I had, was related to, there's a lot more freelancers than there is money in the $10 billion for the EDIL loans. So is it your understanding that this is like, do it now, it's going to run out, and if you didn't get it, then you don't get it?
I don't know that it's going to run out. I mean, the government Congress can say we need additional funds for this program, and they can fund it again. The reason I'm encouraging people to do it now is because we don't know what that looks like, and we don't know how long this is going to take. This is going to be a huge program. I don't know if you saw the unemployment numbers today, but 6.6 million people have now filed for employment. So that's a lot of people in the hopper that need money. And I can imagine it being a very big clog if there are a lot of people requesting these funds and not enough resources to make sure that people are getting it in an efficient way. So I'm saying apply as soon as possible so you can get in line as soon as possible, and then we'll sort of see what happens from there.
Okay, so it's not necessarily apply as soon as possible because it's going to run out. It's apply as soon as possible because this is going to take a lot of time to work through the red tape to like be in your bank to help you pay for things. And I guess just to backtrack a little bit, We're talking about two different loans. We're talking about the EDIL loan and we're talking about the PPP loan. You told us a little bit about the EDIL loan. Can you talk about the PPP loan a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And so this loan is one that is gone, and in contrast to the SBA loans, which are the EDIL loans, which are gone through the SBA, the Paycheck Protection loans are done through your local lender, and so an SBA approved lender. And this program actually got $350 billion compared to, I think it was $349 billion, or part of that was from the CARES Act. And again, it's for smaller businesses that are fewer than 500 employees. Also includes self-employed people, sole proprietors, freelancers, that type of thing. The loans, they're based on a maximum of either $10 million, the lesser of $10 million, or 2.5 times your average payroll. And so again, we've talked about how payroll has been expanded to mean different things, but so you can figure out sort of what you'd get by figuring out what your payroll costs are, multiplying that by 2.5, and if that's under 10 million, which it will be for the mass majority of people, that's how much you're going to be eligible for the loan.
What do you think? Drop a comment below. And so if you're able to really look at your business, if you're a single solo sole proprietor, and you really look at how your expenses line up, you might be able to utilize both loans and make them sort of work in harmony. Is there, and maybe this is, I'm putting you on a spot here, could you paint us a picture of an example of what that could look like? So then someone watching this might be like, oh, that makes sense. Like I get like a more tangible picture.
Yeah. So depending on if you have a rental space,
sure,
you do a lot of video, camera, those types of things. You have a space where you're actually set up a studio. You have to pay rent for that studio. So rent, utilities, anything that you're paying for that space could be operating expenses that you could use the EDIL loan for, and then use the PPP loan to pay the expenses, the payroll that you pay yourself as a sole proprietor, as a single person.
I know a lot of freelancers in my position will have a home office, and maybe that's a little gray area, but does that apply for that, where it's like I have a home office, can I pay for that with this sort of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably still up in the air, but it makes sense if that's a part of your expenses. So the home office has to be used exclusively and regularly for business. And so you can't have a shared space, but if that office space is already sectioned off and you're taking that on your tax return, it's then been verified in a part of your operating expenses. So you could use whatever portion of that to pay for that percentage of your home space. I
know everything is sort of evolving still, but the just to kind of give a recap on the risks involved as a creator, a freelancer, you have the EDIL loan, and the assumption at this point is that first $10,000 is going to be a grant. It'll be forgiven. It's not really a loan. Beyond that, it gets a little more complicated, and that's sort of further down the road. The PPP loan, tell me about the loan versus parts that will be forgiven based on what we know right now.
Yeah, and so that's where the 8 weeks comes in. And so there's a rule that says anything that you're using the loan's funds for that's over the 8 weeks from when you've been granted the loan will be forgiven as long as it's for those certain expenses. So things like your mortgage, things like utilities, payroll, all of those types of things. If you use them for those first 8 weeks of the loan, then the loan will be forgiven.
If you're looking for valuable tools to help you become a successful freelance filmmaker, I have a ton at nixfort.com/shop. Producer kit, contract kit, client kit, pricing worksheet, cinema LUTs, all that good stuff. Go check it out. I know you got to run here. I had two or three questions from Instagram here. And if you're stuck abroad, let's say you can't come back to the United States, can you still apply for this and try to get this help?
You can apply through the SBA because that's online. I'm not sure how you would apply for the PPP loan because you need to go through an SBA approved lender. And from what I've seen so far, they're making people come in, which is also sort of a part of weirdness of like, how do people are going to come in if we're supposed to be staying at home? But I don't know that they've sort of figured that out yet. And again, like I said, they're still trying to figure out how this is actually going to work. And they're changing the rules today for a program that starts tomorrow. So it may be a little bit of a mess. And so do your best to just try to stay on top of it.
How would it work for someone who freelances but also has W-2 income and has one job that they're still working on, but all their other jobs have been cut off due to the pandemic? So it's sort of a bit of a more messy situation in terms of like, should they apply? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I always say apply and see what you can get. They base it on your business income. So you still have to be in a business that has been started before January 31st of 2020. But if you have already established that you have your own business or you're an independent contractor before then, you have income that can verify that, then apply and see what you can get. And, I think a lot of people have been affected by this. And so to me, it makes sense to get as much money in the hands of people that need it as possible. Obviously, there's the ability for fraud to happen and people who may get some money who don't need it. But there are just a lot of people who are hurting right now, as the 6.6 million numbers show. So hopefully we can get money into people's hands. And that's what I'm saying, just apply, and we'll leave it up to the program itself to figure out how that's going to work, how that's going to pan out.
So like you said, I think it's another thing that we didn't really touch on in terms of you have to have been a freelancer for a certain window of time. So that's important. You can't just start a business right now and get this money. So that's an important note in there. In your article, there are specifics about that, and I'll probably throw that up on the screen, that data about the window of time. I think a lot of people are going to want to know, can I do this grant plus collect unemployment in my local government? I know unemployment is a mess when it comes to freelancers and independent contractors at this point. I know that was in your Q&A, but I think that having the answer for that is pretty valuable.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't have the answer, right? It seems like it's a maybe because it's sort of like we were talking about with the PPP loan and the EDILs. If you're using them for different expenses, then it makes sense that you would actually have the EDIL loan for your business expenses and then unemployment for your personal expenses. But unemployment is different for every state. And so whether you qualify or not depends on the state. And I've already heard from people that have gotten varying different results as far as whether they qualify or whether they don't. And also, you still have to qualify that you aren't working, or in some states, like you have to qualify that you're not working or don't have income. And if this is allowing you to keep your business running and sustain your business, then there's really no need for unemployment. So it's going to be a balance. It's going to be a dance. It's going to be people trying to figure it out as we go along. How do we make sure that people aren't double dipping? And there's a very big opportunity for independent contractors who now qualify for both to double dip. Whereas people who are W-2 don't have the options for the EDIL loans or the PPP loan.
If you're finding this helpful, please share this video with someone else who will also find it helpful. Right, so you really have to figure out what is appropriate for your situation and maybe try multiple angles and see what works. I know that for myself, when I went through the unemployment application, it is not made for sole proprietors. So like I tried to fill it out correctly and it was just like, nope, but we'll see. I mean, they mailed me some stuff. I got to open that mail. We'll find out. But I think that this is nice because you can feel a little bit more, somewhat of a certainty that money is going to come to you, hopefully. Hopefully.
And I will give the caveat again, like we just don't know. All of this is still up in the air and it's brand new. And the fact that we're trying to get it done in a week is extraordinary. So my guess is it's not going to go very well, but we wait and see. We take things one day at a time and see what we can do. And then, the only thing that you can do is focus on what you can control. And that's applying. Make sure that you're getting yourself and putting yourself in position to get money if it's available. And then seeing where it goes from there.
That makes the most sense to me. I think the biggest thing for a lot of people out there is like, is this real? It's real. Should I apply? Is there any risks? There's no risks. You should apply. That's kind of the end of the story. So hopefully this can help a lot of people.
To me, the most important one is making sure that you do apply now, right? To me, there's no sense in waiting, especially now that it's been open for 3 days. If you're an independent contractor or a freelancer, I feel like your best bet is to try to get that money through the SBA. The Paycheck Protection Program is based mostly on payroll, and for people who are independent or freelancers or independent contractors, you may get less money that way. So I'm saying apply now. There are a lot of people who have hesitation of applying either because they don't understand the program or because they're afraid that they're going to get denied. But there are no fees for applying. There's no guarantee fees. There's no application fees. There's no nothing. So you're not really losing anything by at least giving it a try and applying. And maybe you don't get additional funds, but you'll likely get a grant. So you at least get $10,000 to help with the expenses that you have now. So yeah, to me, the most important one is applying now, making sure that you're getting in line, being careful of fraud. There are a lot of people, I've already received a lot of emails where people are saying, well, I want to help small businesses package these loans together, especially for the EDILs, the applications online. So you're not going to need really any help doing that. And usually with the bank, there's going to be somebody at the bank, a loan officer that helps put together the package for you, or at least gives you what you need. There are sample applications online that you can fill out that also give you a sense of what you need. So you just be careful of using or paying other companies money to help put the package together.